What we're going to do today is we're going to take an old weldment off the Model 400 and put the new high efficiency weldment on an old furnace. The first thing you need to do is make sure you've got the power shut off, power source. Secondly, you've got to make sure that the furnace is drained completely of water or fluid, antifreeze, what have you.
But unhook the power at the source, not the stove.
So now with a pair of pliers and a Phillips screwdriver, we're going to go to the back of the furnace and disconnect the high limit and the outlet stop.
This is kind of important. Oh, you don't want to be in this?
We cut the silicone around the chimney. Now with a Stanley knife, we cut the silicone. As I mentioned before, we're doing a Model 400. There are 12 screws that hold the roof on, 6 per side.
They're the ones with the rubber grommet.
You've got the rubber grommet on the. Okay, now we remove the 12 screws from the roof on the 400. Now with yourself and someone to help you, we're going to lift the roof off. By 16th bit and my cordless drill. I'm going to remove the 8 screws per corner and take all 4 corners off.
Cut it there.
Okay. On every furnace, the 400, 200, and 100, we've got screws in the top corner, bottom corner, on both ends. Once you remove those, the whole side comes off in one piece. Okay.
Now we got to remove the insulation. What we should have is like a mask, long sleeve shirt, goggles and stuff. You know where these pieces of insulation go. When you're putting it back in, you might need to adapt it. You'll see when we put it back in. Give you a look at this. The stove is uninsulated in about 8 seconds, so that doesn't take very long.
You'll want to salvage this chimney wrap as well. Okay, once the insulation is taken off, then you come around to the front of the furnace. Pull off the fan cover, which exposes your blower fan, and my assistant will take that. There's 2 plastic thumb screws here that hold the combustion fan on.
Cut.
So now what we're doing is we're taking the blower fan off. So you want to take your door hoses off, the bottom hose, top hose, as well as your bladder hose up here. That needs to be removed as well. You remove the screens. Then with the cordless drill and your bit, on each corner there's a rivet here that holds the front of the shroud onto the base leg. You'll want to drill that rivet out. What that does, that frees up the bottom of the shroud. Okay, what my assistant and myself are going to do now is there's 4 screws that hold the shroud on. There's 2 on the bottom with fender washers, and there's 2 on top. Once those 4 are removed, this whole shroud lifts off. Once 4 screws are removed, now it's time to lift this off. And you want to be careful, you don't put all the weight of the shroud on this bottom piece because you'll fold that steel underneath. You got to be kind of careful with it. Okay, now with your 3/4 inch socket and your vice grip, you pull the 6 bolts, 3 on the side, off of the wings. Okay, once the 6 bolts are removed with a large screwdriver or a pry bar, you want to get in and you want to separate the weldment from your base. Just stick it in here, lift up, make sure this is broke loose. That way when you separate the two, this will come off easily and it won't want to lift up your base and allow the sand to slip out from underneath.
Now they're going to need some kind of...
The weldment is probably 700 pounds, so you'll need some piece of equipment to lift it off.
Should we transfer?
Straight up and get that back here. Okay, what we've done now is we've taken the old weldment off. What we're going to do now is take this old gasket off, because when you put the new weldment on, you want a nice seal. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to pull this off. Once you get it started, you can just give it a pull. And what you want to do is prep this area, clean it all up, all the way around. And then we'll get to that when we put the new gasket on. I'll explain more. Once you get this cleaned up, then you want to take the silicone that comes with the kit, lay a nice bead, because this is what you're going to use for adhesive for your gasket. It also came with the kit. We sent plenty, so don't be shy. Okay, now we've got the silicone around on the top of the base that we're using for our adhesive for the gasket. So you want to make sure this gets right on the center of the base. Gasket down on top of the silicone. In a perfect world, it takes 24 hours for the silicone to cure. Obviously, we're not going to take that long. You can set it directly on after you install the gasket, but you need to be extremely careful. So when you set the weldment down, if you have to shift it at all, you're moving this gasket. That's why I say if you let it cure overnight, it is an ideal situation. Okay. So when you purchase a new weldment, the high efficiency weldment, it'll come with this front air box, which adapts to existing air box in the front, and that's with the 100, 200, or 400. And how that works, it comes with 2 screws. It just takes and slides over the existing air box, slide it as far as it'll go, and then it comes with 2 self-tapping screws. You just come in through the top here. And it's done. Okay, then if you've got a model 400, and if it does not have the rear airbox extension, absolutely need to purchase this as well, because that will help with the performance of the furnace with the front airbox and the rear airbox. And again, that's only on the model 400s that the rear airbox is required. Okay, go my way a little bit. Oh, your way? Yep. Installing a new weldment. Our gasket's down. It's still a little bit, it's still wet. You need to be careful, and when you set this down, you want to set it straight down. If you start to move it around and around, side to side to get, you may upset the gasket, because that's why I recommend let it cure overnight. That allows you a little bit more freedom to move the weldment.
What are we looking to line up, Mike?
Yep, what we want to line up is the corner of this and that front corner there, so we're flush here.
Are we with the base or with the angle iron there?
With the base.
Okay.
Corner of the base with the corner of the weldment. Okay, now we've got our new weldment sitting on the base with our new gasket. Now what I'm going to do is I'm installing the 6 base bolts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all 6 in finger tight, and there is a certain sequence as far as tightening goes. There really is no torque specs, but there is kind of a pattern that you want to tighten down. Okay, now I've got all 6 of my bolts finger tight. Now I'm going to tighten them down according to the sequence. Start with the back. Go to the opposite front. Then go to the back. Then I'll cross back over to the front here. Then what I'll do is I'll just go and start from the back. Just re-snug them up. What you'll want to do now, after we tightened up our bolts, a little extra silicone comes with the gasket kit. You'll want to take and lay a nice bead all the way around it, between the base and the weldment, to cover up that gasket. Unlike glitch. Okay. After we siliconed around the base, obviously this one, we're in the shop, it's not plumbed, but as a customer, you'd want to come back to the back of the furnace now, hook up your plumbing. There's a couple things on the new ones that are a little bit different than your existing. The return is still there, and we still have the supply down here. We added another supply up here for if you want hotter water for a dual hookup or whatever. And we also changed the placement for those of you that have domestic coils. You'll see you may have to add on to your piping a little bit for your domestic water. Okay, so once we did the plumbing, now we just reinstall the controls. slide them into the well. Obviously you've taken the wells off of your old furnace and put on the new one already. We kind of skipped a step here, but okay. Now the plumbing is down in the back. The aquastat and the helimeter are hooked back up. Now we move to the front of the furnace. Now it's time to put the shroud on. This will take 2 people because the shroud's heavy and you don't want to bend that steel in the front. So, here we go.
And we're just going to drag the fan along.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention is when you're reinstalling the shroud, you've got your ARD, your anti-roll device rod here. You want to make sure that's lined up before you bring the bottom in. There's a hole for that right below the door. Okay. Ready? Up here is critical. As you can see where the old hole went, are we taping? If you put your screw there, you'll drill into the water jacket. So what we did,
put your screw there.
we sent 2 extra fender washers with the kit, and that goes alongside the shroud through this ear here. Do not drill into the water jacket. That's the fender washer that we sent with the extra. There's one on either side.
Go, Mike.
Okay, now that we've reinstalled the shroud, now I'm going to reinstall the combustion fan. Okay, we got this tight. Now, which happens in most cases, like you can see we're dripping water out of the bladder, so I'll install that next. So we don't quit dripping water. We just slide the hose back on, tighten up the clamp again. Make sure your valve is closed, just like you were if it was a brand new furnace install. Now we'll take and reattach our door hoses. And my trusty assistant will grab me the fan cover. I'll reinstall that. Reinstall the fan cover. Our temperature gauge well from our existing furnace went in up in the left corner. Use your old gauge. Bladder valve is closed. Door hoses are on, fan is on, we're done with the front. Now we move on to reinsulating and putting the side pin on. So what I'm doing here is I'm reinstalling the rivets that we drilled out to take the shroud off. Your personal furnace at home, if you're not going to move the stove, it's not necessary because obviously you're not going to move it. The reason I'm putting these ones back in is this one's getting transported out of the shop. But what I'm doing is the holes didn't quite line up, so I pre-drilled, and I'm taking a rivet and I'm reinstalling it into the new hole that I drilled. It's that simple. But like I said, if you're doing this at home, your furnace is on the slab, it really isn't necessary. So if you don't do it, and you still can transport it without it too, it's not a big deal. And then once that's done, before you start insulating, you want to make sure that you put your chicken wire back in. What that does, it just gives it a little bit cleaner looking where the combustion fan sits. There's a piece of wire on either side. That way when the insulation comes down, it doesn't poke in where the blower fan sits. So, reinstalling the chimney wrap, and what that does, it protects the fiberglass insulation from the heat from the furnace. And most cases, the wire's in pretty bad shape, the old wire, so I recommend to have new wire. Any type of wire works. This is just coated electrical wire here that I'm using. Okay, now we're going to reinstall the insulation.
Sure the insulation goes on the inside of the conduit.
Okay, now we're all done with the insulation. You definitely want to make sure that the conduit is back on the outside of the insulation. For whatever reason, if your furnace gets low on water, it will get hot, it will melt your wiring inside the conduit. That's the reason why we do this. Okay, what we're doing now is we're putting the sides back on. Okay, can you push yours forward a little bit, Chet? Okay, perfect. You're reinstalling the sidewalls. On the back side of this wall, there's a small strip of tin that goes up underneath the bottom of the insulation. You want to make sure that all the insulation is up above that. And you're pushing this part of it in. We're going to go ahead and reinstall our four corners. Then once you get your sides on, then it's time to reinstall the three separate pieces that laid on top. That's what I'm doing here. And actually with this new style weldment, it's a little bit higher here. So what I did is I took the extra insulation and just kind of folded underneath and made some room here. So there's only one layer here on top of the bonnet, which is fine. But it's nice and tight, nice and compact in there. Okay, now that we've got the sides on, the additional insulation, the short pieces, it may not all fit because we've gone with a little bit different design water jacket with this new high efficiency one, but you pack in as much as you can, which we've done here. Now the next step is put the roof on. And that new weldment is designed where your lift point, chimney, standpipe is all in the same spot as your old furnace was. Now what I'm going to do is, it really works nice if you got two people. As you can see, Chad here is pulling down on the front to center it. What I'll do is I'll put in one screw here, then we'll move to the back of the furnace and pull down, and I'll put two back there, and that'll square up the whole roof with the rest of the building. Then I can go ahead and put all my rest of my screws in. Okay, now Chad's going to pull down on the front of the building, make sure it's square. And don't be alarmed. The holes, existing holes in the roof may not line up with the whole existing holes in the angle iron. That's a common thing. So you've just taken the whole building apart. We'll send some extra screws with it as well. Okay, now what we do, the last and final thing, is to re-silicone around our chimney, our pop-off ball, our standpipe, and new furnaces do not have an anode rod. So there's a hole on the other side in your roof where the anode is. Take, and we'll send adequate silicone with, and just silicone that 1-inch hole shut in the roof of the stove on the other side. Reinstall your pressure relief ball and you're done. Okay, my name is Mike Galusha. I'm the service guy here at HEATMOR. What we just did with this video is we took apart 400 DCSS, took the old style weldment off, and we went ahead and put the new style, the higher efficiency weldment on. As you can see, it was fairly simple. It took us 2.5 hours. The tools we used was a cordless drill with a 5/16 nut driver. I used a cordless drill with a drill bit the size of a pop rivet. We used a 3/4 inch ratchet, a vice grip, a pry bar, and a Stanley knife, and a Phillips screwdriver. And that's about all we needed for tools.